Without mincing any words, let me shatter the myth that is quite often cropped up in serious debates about secession, sovereignty, and terrorism. It is often argued by liberals that one's revolutionary will be a terrorist for another nation. No, it is the classic camouflage used to justify dastardly acts of the terrorism. Let me break it down for these stupid terrorist apologists, the basic difference between revolutionary and terrorist. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Savita Mishra and this is TFI Post. The West colonized and wrecked civilizations throughout the world. It is from there the Western wordplay started. Terrorizing acts, oppression, and plundering native citizens were justified with the outrageous theory of white man's burden. The moral and legitimate demand for independence was curbed by these Western nations throughout the world with brute force, terrorizing the psyche of native people and branding revolutionary as terrorists. Now, just because Bhagat Singh and Osama bin Laden were labeled terrorists, no justification or rationale can ever put them on the same pedestal. I repeat, never. It is for this perversion of revolutionary terrorist false equivalence that the terrorist apologists have been carrying out anti-India and anti-humanity terror acts in the name of a platform of progressive revolutionary ideas and the democratic right of peaceful protests. After the March 19 attack on the Indian High Commission, India has demonstrated that it will not tolerate secessionist and terrorist acts at any cost. For this reason, the Modi government has not shied away from humiliating the British. Two incidents underline this fact. First, India withdrew the security cover outside the British High Commission in New Delhi. Second, there were reports that India now wants to open a public urinal outside the British ambassador's residence. To send a clear message of zero tolerance against secession, India is clearly conveying that it will not shy away from downgrading its diplomatic ties with UK. But the ball lies in the British court. However, it seems that there are several places in the UK that want to follow its past policies of divide and rule and balkanization of India, which they followed during the colonial period. British MP Claudia Webbe has come out openly in support of Khalistan and the terror outfit's demand for secession from India. In a tweet, Claudia said, I'm quoting, I'm very concerned about the situation in the Punjab, which is affecting many within the Sikh community of Leicester. It's inflammatory for UK politicians to label Sikhs as terrorists. Those that peacefully support Khalistan and a referendum on independence are not terrorists. Now, first things first, who is Claudia Webbe? She is the independent MP from Leicester, where the Hindus were brutally attacked by an Islamist horde a few months ago. Earlier in 2022, she was sentenced to 10 weeks of imprisonment, which was suspended for 2 years for an 18-month harassment campaign against her love rival, Michelle Merritt. Following a conviction, she was thrown out by the Labour Party for her scandalous and criminal past. Threatening Michelle Merritt, Claudia Webbe said, I'm quoting, I have seen all of your naked pictures. Get out of my relationship, otherwise I will tell your whole family and show them all of your pictures. But we wouldn't adopt the liberal logic of shooting the messenger and ignoring the content of her claim. Before we could get that opportunity, Khalistani apologists like this were openly called out by British Conservative MP Bob Blackman. Speaking in a parliament, he sought a complete ban on the Khalistani groups active in the United Kingdom. He said, I'm quoting, we are harboring Khalistani terrorists in the country right now. Can we have a debate in government time on what action we can take to ensure that these terrorists are held to account and banned in this country? Later, British Indian citizens schooled Claudia Webbe and ilks and categorically reminded them that they would feel rattled if anyone harbored anti-British groups like the Irish Republican Army. These Khalistani apologetics forgot to practice similar democratic support for secessionist movements within the UK. Currently, the United Kingdom consists of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. But every constituent member is witnessing the rampant rise of political parties that have demanded to hold a referendum for the independence of these regions. These voices have picked up pace post-Brexit. While the first national referendum was held in the UK in 1975, the majority of the earlier referendums saw a one-sided result in favor of staying with the UK. But in the mess the UK has entered post-Brexit deal, the frequency and intensity of these referendums have radically changed. Since the favourable Scottish independence referendum in 2014, the UK has avoided demands to hold another referendum on Scottish independence. These Khalistani apologists raised their eyebrows and trampled on these voices of Scottish independence. In Scotland, the Scottish National Party has been advocating for independence from the UK for decades. The SNP has continued to push for another independence referendum in the wake of UK's vote to leave the EU in 2016, as Scotland voted overwhelmingly to remain in the EU. Similarly, in the Northern Ireland, there have been calls for a referendum on reunification with the Republic of Ireland, particularly after Brexit. The Good Friday Agreement, signed in 1998, ended decades of sectarian conflicts in the region. It includes a provision that a referendum can be held if it appears likely that a majority of people in the Northern Ireland would vote for reunification. Further, in recent years, there has been an increase in support for Welsh independence, but it remains a minority viewpoint. As per the 2020 poll, it was found that around 23% of people in Wales supported Welsh independence, which is only on the rise. This is compared to Scotland, where support for independence is generally higher, with some polls indicating a majority in favour of independence. When it comes to secession from the UK, these same people use different parameters to kill the democratic movements, if any. But elsewhere, they defend terrorists with the above false equivalence. This is why liberals use flawed logic to defend their hypocrisy. The false equivalence of revolutionary and terrorist is corrupt to the core. In a mature democratic debate, it can be argued that not all secessionists are terrorists, but in no rational way can anyone justify the terror acts of Khalistanis has been carrying out to fulfill the political aims of Pakistani intelligence agency ISI.